Paul of Tarsus and Stoicism. Paul of Tarsus is one of Christianity's most interesting characters. He never met Jesus Christ and was a persecutor of Christians throughout his early life. He became transformed, however, after meeting the resurrected Christ on a road leading to Damascus. That encounter changed him from a persecutor of the church to an apostle of Christ. Paul ended up writing at least 7 New Testament letters, and his message became one of the greatest influences on Christianity. However, there are those who argue that the ideas that Paul preached were not part of the gospel of Christ, but were in fact influenced by the ancient philosophies of his time. One such philosophy associated with Paul's teaching is Stoicism. Stoicism is a school of philosophy founded by Zeno of Citium, who lived sometime between 334 BC and 262 BC. His school gained its name from the location where its members met, the Stoa Poikili, located on the famous Agora of Athens. Stoicism was one of the most popular schools of thought throughout the Roman Empire during the life and times of Paul. He undoubtedly came in contact with it throughout his lifetime, and such an event is even described in the New Testament when Paul's sermon on Mars' Hill in Athens is described in Acts 17. In Acts 17, Paul describes how he first came to Athens and was appalled to find it filled with idols. He eventually met some Stoic philosophers who took him to Mars' Hill in order to give him a chance to speak his message. This passage in the Bible illustrates just how easily it was to come in contact with Stoic philosophy during that time. In fact, Paul betrays his own obviously thorough knowledge of Stoic philosophy when he quotes the Stoic Cleanthes during his sermon. For in him we live and move and exist, as even some of your own poets have said, for we are also his children. And that's the Cleanthes quote. This passage proves that Paul is familiar with Stoicism and that he used his knowledge to connect with the people he preached, and that he used this knowledge to connect with the people he preached to and to relate his message to their lives. After one acknowledges this, the question becomes, was Paul's message itself influenced by Stoic thought? Experts who support this theory use Romans 2:14 to 15 as proof. For when Gentiles who do not have the law do instinctively the things of the law, these, not having the law, are a law to themselves, and that they show the work of the law written in their hearts, their conscience bearing witness, and their thoughts alternately accusing or else defending. In this passage, Paul is talking to his fellow Jews. Basically, he is saying that some Gentiles live moral lives just because of the naturally occurring law written in their hearts. Some argue that this sounds a lot like one of Stoicism's main ideas, the theory of natural law. The Stoics' theory of natural law states that the world and all its inhabitants are governed by one law. All people contain a basic knowledge of this law within them, but because humans have free will, they choose to ignore it. The Stoics always strive to become as in tune with this natural law as possible. The problem with Paul hinting at the existence of such a law is that it could be interpreted by some as him saying that it is natural law that governs the universe and not God. In my opinion, this is not the case. It is very easy for one to try to find flaws in Paul, his writing. It is very easy for one to try flaws in Paul, his writing, and his message. He was a Pharisee with some type of ailment, his thorn in the flesh, spoken of in 2 Corinthians. He was a persecutor of Christians, and he never knew Jesus until after his resurrection. On top of that, he wrote a lot about what Christians should do without having spent as much time with Jesus as the other apostles. Many people question how Paul could know what is best for Christians without actually meeting Jesus. In the end, it is a matter of faith. If you believe that Paul met the resurrected Jesus on the way to Damascus, then there should be no doubt in your mind that everything Paul did was according to God's plan. If you don't believe that Paul met the resurrected Jesus on the way to Damascus, then it doesn't really matter where he got the materials for his writing, because without Jesus' blessing, Paul's message is